All right, in this video, I updated my code on the left, and it's a little bit different on the right also. Okay, I added some classes, names, arrays, IDs, stuff like that. Okay, this first video, I will show you how to select singular HTML element or DOM nodes. Remember, those are the same thing. We're gonna select one at a time, and I'll show you how to select the ones that you want. Now remember, the last slide showed that there's many ways. I'll show you my favorite way first, which is query selector. What if I want to select this H3 with the ID difficulty? Well, const my ID is equal to document.querySelector, and then we need to include the hashtag, right? Because it's an ID. This is just like CSS selectors. So hashtag and then the value of that ID, which is difficulty. We press enter, we type in my ID, we get that element. Okay. What if we want to select it by class? What if we want to select this class? Well, const my class dot query selector dot list. You need the dot notation if you're selecting a class. Okay, dot list. Let's see. My class. Yep. What if you just want to select this H1 right here? Well, const H1 is equal to document.querySelector, and this will say H1. Now notice that there are no hashtags, and there's no dot, and there's no funny stuff in front of the H1. Why is that? Because this H1 is a built-in HTML tag, like body, like head, like UL. So when you're selecting those, you don't need a prefix in front. Okay. Let's type h1.text content, see what we get. We got this one, I am first. So why didn't it select the second H1? Remember, this video is only talking about selecting one element at a time. When you're just doing .query selector, it's always going to be one element at a time. Okay? So when you set H1, it's going to read the whole document from top to bottom, and when it hits the first H1, it's going to stop, and it's going to save this into memory. Okay. Now, one cool thing that I want to show you. Did you know that in the myQuery selector, in the argument, you can actually put CSS selectors? Let me show you. Const my element document query, query selector. Okay, what are we going to select? Let's look at this. List2. And I want to select this object that says object, right? Using compound selectors. So we can do, let's say this has a class of list2. So we're going to do dot list2. And then we're going to do the greater than compound selector. And remember what this does? It selects all direct children of the dot list. Okay. But since it cannot select all of the children, since this is only selecting one element, it's just going to select the first one right here. My element. See, it only selects the first one. Okay, let's move on to get element by ID. It's very similar. So if I want to select this again, but not use query selector, I can do const my new ID document get element by ID. Whoops, get element by ID, and then I can just put in difficulty. Okay. Now notice, I did not have the hashtag. Why? Because this method, get element by ID, already has ID in the name. So it's really obvious, right? So they don't want us to use the hashtag. My new ID. Yep.